how can you monitor your progress with regard to debt payments? I'll show you how. The two tabs that you'll need to focus on is in this example is the month that you're budgeting for. So in this example, it's the month of September, and also the debt tab, which is this tab here. So in this example, you have two types of debt: a car note with a minimum payment of 100 and a student loan with a minimum payment of 100. So because I don't need the debt lines 3 through 9, I'll delete them. So you highlight it, right click, delete. Then you go to the debt tab and highlight again the debts that you don't need. So that'll be debt 3 through 9, highlight, right click, delete. Okay. The second thing that you want to do is, because I'm starting my budget from the month of September, I don't really need the January through August payments because I'm starting from the month of September. So highlight, right click, delete. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is update the header so that it can reflect your debt. So instead of debt number 1, as we can see from the September tab, you have a car note and you have a student loan. So you will update, and they're also color coded. So the mint green is car note, the orange is student loan. So you go back to the debt tab, the mint green is car note, and the orange is student loan. And then you want to put in the applicable interest rate or APR for your loans. In my example, my car note is 6% and my student loan is 3.62. You see in the formula tab, but it just rounded it up to 4. And then you want to put your total balance as of the day that you're starting your budget. So I'm starting my budget for September, and as of, we'll say, August 31, the balance on my car note is $20,000, and as of August 31, the balance on my student loan is $25,000. In case you're wondering how the monthly interest charge is calculated, all that the cell is doing is taking your annual interest rate, so say the APR of 6%, and dividing it by 12, or the 4% interest rate and dividing it by 12. So essentially every month they're charging 1/12 of interest to make the whole year. So obviously 12 months in a year, you divide the interest rate by 12, and so each month is 1/12 of the 6% for the car note, and then it's for the student loan is 1/12 of 4%. And if you go into the interest charge cell, you'll see that the formula is B3 times B2. So it's taking B3, which is your balance as of August 31, times the interest rate of 6%, times 1/12. So it's taking 1/12 to get your interest charge for the month of September. And you can also compare the interest to the statements that you get on from your lender, and you'll see that for the most part it'll be within about $2 or $3 of the interest that they charge you, because every lender, some of them use very convoluted ways of charging your APR, but this formula will get you pretty close to the amount. It might be off by a few dollars or so, but it's a pretty darn good estimate. All right. This next step only applies to those that are not beginning their budget from the month of January. If you remember earlier in this video, we deleted the payments from January through August because we were starting our budget in the month of September. So for those of you that deleted months prior to September, you have to update your formula tabs in the balance rows, and that's because when you delete on this tab, it just ends up affecting the formulas. So I'll just explain to you what we're changing and why. Alright, so say again, because we're beginning in September, we'll say that the balance on your car note as of August 31 was $20,000. So to get the proper balance at the end of September, you would take the balance as of August 31 plus interest charged after August 31 minus the payment that you made in September. So essentially this balance should take this plus this plus this, right? But if you go into the formula, you see here at the top that it's saying it's only summing B5, just this blue rectangle. So you have to update it to include B3 to B5 to get the proper balance. And so if you press enter, you'll see that this updates the balance to 20,000, which is right, because if you started with 20,000 and $100 in interest was charged and you paid $100, that means you're back at 20,000 again. So that's it. And then you can see that the rest of these cells updated because of that change. You also want to update the balance for any other remaining loans. So in this example, because I have the student loan, I'll update the balance formula for that one also. As you can see, it has the incorrect formula. It's saying sum C5 to C5. You want to sum C3 to C5, which is in the blue rectangle. Press enter and we see that both loans have updated. $25,000 as of August 31. $75 of interest was charged and I made a $100 payment. So the balance is $24,975 at the end of September. No more room in my life for you. Alright, now that we have everything on this tab set up in terms of formulas, I'll show you the kind of analysis that I did to determine whether to accelerate my loan payments and by how much to accelerate them. So let's go back to the tab for the month of September so that I can show you how your monthly or biweekly budget sheets tie to this debt tab. So we allocated $100 per month, which is the minimum payment for each loan. And if you go to the debt tab, you'll see that the September payments for each debt is $100. So let's just carry that payment of $100 to the remaining months of the year. So we'll go to October and we'll copy over. Obviously you can delete rows 3 to 9 on your own time. So we'll copy this again, Control C, go to November, paste or Control V, and December, either paste or Control V. Let's go back to September and then we'll go back to the debt tab. So you can see that for the months of September, October, November, and December, you'll see the monthly payments of $100 for each of your loans. There are two different ways that you can analyze your debt. And the first is by looking at the change in your balance from month to month. So for the car note, we started with $20,000 at August 31. $100 interest is charged. You paid $100, which is the minimum monthly payment, and your balance at the end of September was $20,000. So basically, your debt is staying the same. It's staying at $20,000. So your payments aren't enough to make a dent in your debt. So just based on that, that will make me want to accelerate my payments because I want my payments to actually decrease my debt, not just keep me at the same number because I'm only paying interest. So how do you figure out what effect accelerating your payments would make? You will let's go back to September because that's the month we began. And let's try to see what would happen if we paid $200 towards the car note instead of the $100 minimum payment. So we'll change this to $200 and we'll do that for the months of October through December so that we can see the effect on the rest of the year. Now go back to the debt tab and you'll see that the $200 payments for the car note for the months of September to October, so from September through December are reflected here. So now you can see that when you make a $200 payment, your balance at the end of September would be $19,900 instead of $20,000. So by making a $200 payment, you're actually decreasing the amount of your car note now. Okay. So the second way to analyze whether you should make whether you should accelerate your payment is to look at the total decrease in your debt. So let's go back to when we were first making the $100 payments. So I'll just press Control Z to undo the $200 payments. Undo, undo, undo. Okay, so now we're back at the $100 payments from September to December. All right, now if you look at the total debt, total interest, and total payments column, I'll tell you what's happening. The total payments column is just summing your payments for each month. So total payments in September was $200, total payments in October was $200, so on and so forth. So at the end of the year, your total payments were $800. total interest is doing the same thing. Each month is summing the total interest that you were charged, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the month, you were charged $701 in interest. Now, this last column, the total debt, it's calculating the how much your debt has changed during the year. So, it's actually flipped. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, you started with $45,000 in debt. At the end of the year, you had $44,901 in debt. So you pretty much only paid $99 towards your debt. Now, how is that possible? Well, this is how. Your total payments were $800. Out of that $800, 701 of it went to interest. So you really only paid $99 towards your debt. So that's enough for me to also decide to accelerate my payments. Like, I don't want to pay $800 only to have my total debt decrease by $99. That's unacceptable to me. So let's go back. Now, remember, so with the first scenario, with $100 per month, your car note was not changing at all, and you were only paying $99 towards your total debt. Okay, so back with the $200 payment to the car note scenario. Let me put these values back in. Now, instead of your debt decreasing by $99, now it's decreasing by $502 by you making a $200 payment towards your car note instead of just a $100 minimum payment. And so that's what you do. You go and you pick an amount that works for your budget, and see how it'll affect your total balance by the end of the year. So, what if you wanted to pay $200 towards each loan? You would copy that over to the remaining months of the year. Go to the debt tab. Now with $200 payments for each loan for the months of September through December, your total debt would have decreased by $904. So you would pay a total of $1,600. $696 of that is going to interest. $904 is going to your debt. So with the $200 minimum payments, most of your payments are going towards debt as opposed to interest, which is the best scenario that you that you can be in when it comes to debt. And so you pick an amount that works for your budget, that doesn't hurt anything else. Obviously, you don't want to take from, your utilities to pay for your debt, but you play around with amounts that are acceptable for you and see how it affects your debt. And that's how you can determine how much or to what extent an accelerated payment will affect your total debt. And that's all. No more rules.